Okay, everyone, hello. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews post-match briefing. Again, just me, no Derek, to hold my hand, so we'll get through this post-match briefing as best we can. It's a big one. Rangers have gone top of the league for the first time since the 21-22 season, and it was always really one of these games, again, where, in hindsight, comfortable. There were small spells when it's 1-0, when it's on a pitch like this, and the pitch really wasn't great, to put it mildly. There's always moments where you think, is this result a bit delicate? You think back to St Mirren a few weeks ago where St Mirren actually hit the crossbar late on from a set piece. Mohamed Diomande had put Rangers ahead in the first half. Two late James Tavernier penalties. The second one, or the first one, the second goal for Rangers in particular, a big pressure moment from the Rangers captain. I'm going to have a brief look back at the game just now, just talking through some of the main talking points and answering some of your comments. And of course, tomorrow morning, we will look back on the game in greater detail. So let's start with the inevitable big talking point, and that is that the Rangers go back to the top of the Scottish Premiership. Just been in a little while ago, hearing from Philippe Clement. You can watch his whole press conference on our YouTube channel. You can read it in full on the website. And predictably, the Rangers manager was not getting ahead of himself, very keen to talk about his side's focus and what's impressed him so far. He went as far as to say that his squad believe they're in a really special story. He said that he's not come across a group where he's had to effectively not discipline one player for not being focused. He said it's clear that every single player has developed over the last couple of months. And first and foremost, before we get into the game, it's probably important to acknowledge that if he'd said to anyone, I think, following Scottish football back in October when Clement came into the club, that Rangers would win the League Cup, they'd top their Europa League group, and they'd be 2 points clear come February, I think you would have got very long odds. Clement has done a pretty incredible job so far, and I think you sensed that in the atmosphere. I don't know how many people watching were in the away end today, but certainly at full time, I think you sensed that it felt like a big one. Equally, it feels like Rangers are very much focused on two big games coming up. Inform Hearts at home away at Kilmarnock. That's really games to test your mettle in the title race. But at the moment, with 12 games to go, Rangers are top of the league, which again is a sentence that felt very, very far away a few months ago. A lot of people, understandably, in the comments, very happy to hear that Rangers are top of the league, and understandably so. When Clement inherited the club, they were 7 points behind. No small feat. Let's go from the start. Let's talk about the game, the pitch. A few comments here saying the pitch was a bit of a disgrace, and being at the game, I think, relatively fair comment. The pitch was dry, it was bobbling. Clement said that as a result of that, Rangers had to change how they played slightly. They couldn't go through the pitch quite as much. They had to go over the top. But I actually thought for the first 30 minutes, when Rangers looked at their best, was when they weren't as predictable, and when they found the feet of Todd Cantwell, who I thought was, again, really good. He came off around 60 minutes. But the difference was made when Rangers actually played into the feet of Cantwell and Silva. But then the strike from Mohamed Diomande was fantastic. On his right foot, his supposed weaker foot, only his second start for Rangers. Paul saying, what did you make apart from the goal of Diomande's contribution? Thought he looked really good on the ball at time and in tight spaces. Totally agree with that, Paul. Clement was asked after the game, look, is that where you want to use him, maybe as a slightly higher player in the double pivot? And he said, I've told you before, he can play as a 6, he can play as the 8, he can play as the 10. And I think overall what Diomande should give Rangers is a player who's quite comfortable operating on the left-hand side. He's obviously left-footed, scored with his right foot today. Someone who is, I think, as you identify, Paul, comfortable in tight spaces. And I think Rangers have lacked those type of players. Even Lundstrom, who is in fantastic form, not criticising him because I don't think that would be a wise thing to do. But there was a couple of times, and maybe given the benefit of the pitch for benefit of the doubt for the pitch, that when he tried to take the ball kind of on the half turn into the midfield, it rolled away from him. I don't think that's the best part of his game, and I think Rangers have lacked midfielders since an Aribo or a Kamara left, who were really good with the back to goal in tight spaces, trying to play through the press. So I thought it was a promising first league start for Mohamed Diomande, and I'm in agreement with you there, Paul. It was the way that he received the ball in tight spaces, the way that he was able to, I guess, win the ball back quite consistently as well. I've not got immediate stats for that, but I would imagine that they were pretty high. Cantwell won a lot of fouls in that first half in particular as well, but Mohamed Diomande looked very good. Another comment from here saying, Lewis saying, I thought Dio showed glimpses of the players I believe he will turn out to be for Rangers. I'm sure. More to come from Mohamed Diomande. We're going to get to the 2 VAR decisions as well. Aldo saying Diomande looks like the player we all thought that Cifuentes was going to be. Day in the life saying, I thought Big John in the middle had another great game. And CGM55 saying, who is our midfield 2 next weekend? Obviously at home to Hearts. Great question. Lawrence and Lundstrom. Lawrence and Diomande. I'd maybe stray towards Lundstrom and Diomande because Hearts obviously are in a great run of form, and you maybe want to try and dominate that midfield where they normally play 3 players, but a good option for Philippe Clement to have. Absolutely. Right, let's move on and let's talk about the penalties. Firstly, we'll talk about the impact of Dujon Sterling from the bench. Headkeeper here saying Sterling deserves a starting berth. Yeah, we've said it before. It kind of doesn't matter where he plays now as long as he does play in big games. And I thought it was a clever change from Clement. Listen, Scott Wright, there was a lot of noise about it on Twitter. He didn't have a good game at all. I think he had a bad game, lost the ball pretty consistently. And I think Clement made the change at the right time by bringing on Dujon Sterling. Most people would have maybe expected it to be Ross McCausland that came off the bench. I think it was Sterling because the type of game it was, it probably required a powerful runner on the right, and Sterling arguably the quickest in the squad alongside Ravi Matondo, and you saw that come to fruition for the penalty that he won. It was about just getting in there ahead of his marker, and that was a really important intervention in this game. But also the fact that St Johnstone were playing wing-backs, and when they did manage to go direct and get their wing-backs high, there was a potential that they had a 5 against Rangers back 4. Maybe that's what part of the reason that Scott Wright played today as well. And that's perhaps not the strongest part of Ross McCausland's game. But Dujon Sterling came on. He's going to be a really important player for Rangers, especially in the big games, I think, across the next few months, and whether that be in Old Firm games, whether that be in European games. And he made a good impact off the bench, obviously, coming back from suspension. Understandably, a lot of frustration, I think, at that first half performance overall, but Clement managed to fix it, not least because of Diamande's strike and that change at halftime as well. Let's talk about the penalties. Lewis again saying, how can the referee not give the first one without VAR? I've not seen it back. I don't know where the ref was in relation to the foul taking place. I actually tweeted out that I didn't know if it was a penalty at first glance because where I was sitting, it was at the other end, and I couldn't see if Sterling got to the ball first or not. I think a pretty clear penalty, and the second one, looks like a clear penalty as well. Rangers had a lot of they had a lot of opportunities, especially down the right hand side in that second half, and I think that it was a case of do they have the ability to kind of go and finish this game off? And the 2 penalties are a reward for their intensity around the St Johnstone box, and also the fact that St Johnstone started to commit more and more numbers to the press, and James Tavernier, as James Tavernier tends to do, he's one behind. I've had it confirmed to me by someone that he is one behind John Gregg, who I believe actually scored 121 goals for Rangers. There was some dubiety about one of the goals he'd been awarded. Still, 120 is not a bad total. Philippe Clement, after speaking about how he's a defender first, James Tavernier, but the numbers that he produces are crazy. I did an interview with him out in La Manga, which is on my Twitter page if you want to go and read that. And one of the real themes of that was leadership and leading by responsibility and what it means to be a leader. And Tavernier is someone who's had some difficult moments in a Rangers shirt. If you go back to the start even of this season when Rangers lost 3-1 against Aberdeen, he was facing a lot of criticism. But at the moment, I think you've got to say again, he's in another fantastic vein of form, continues to lead by example for his team, because that was a big pressure penalty. The second one, maybe not so much. The keeper went right both times, but Tavernier, who seems to always lift the ball off the ground when he takes a penalty, that's one of the things he's spoken about in the past, managed to find the back of the net both times. Really important to have that assurance over a penalty taker, and in the end, pretty comfortable for Rangers 3-0. They actually didn't even concede a shot on target, which is something that Clement mentioned in the post-match press conference. So why didn't the referee give the first one in particular? I'd imagine it would be because of the angle. Obviously, that's VAR, I think, in good use. That's when referees probably need a bit of help, but absolutely a stone waller for both of them in the end. A lot of praise for Clement in the chat, as you can imagine. Another player that's coming up quite consistently is Cyril Desser's comment here from Scotty. Great 3 points. Dessers missed chances again, though, and I think that's true. It could well have been 4 or 5 in the end if Cyril Dessers had taken his opportunities. He had one where he tried to go around the keeper where I thought just on that pitch, and I don't know if he saw the man on his left-hand side. I don't know on the pitch whether he just didn't recognise that the man was there, but on that surface today, I think it was brave to try and go around the goalkeeper. Listen, Dessers scored 2 goals this week. I think we know what he is, and I think we know what he isn't. He's roughly, although after today this might not be true, roughly performing at his expected goals level. He gets in so many areas to score goals, and he needs that because he misses a lot as well. I still think he'll end this season with probably 15 league goals for Rangers, if not more. They're going to need to share the goals out. I thought Silva was unlucky. There was that one strike at the right at the start of the first half, wasn't there, when Sterling went beyond. Andy Considine managed to kind of shoulder barge him off the ball, where Sterling had a fantastic kind of pass or volley around the corner that the St Johnstone keeper did really, really well to save. But yeah, Dessers, would have been nice to see him come on and have a couple of goals. By that point, Rangers really were in the ascendancy. Maybe he is just saving them up for the next couple of weeks, obviously, with the big games coming up home to Hearts and obviously away to Kilmarnock as well. Head keeper saying he only scores when he has no time. I presume in relation to Dessers when he is 101. James saying it seems as if he wants the perfect goal. So we'll round it up there. I mean, Derek and I are going to speak about the game, and Chris, I think, in greater detail tomorrow morning. We're going to have loads of content for you on the Rangers review, so make sure you're subscribed. We'll, as always, have a bit of a look back at some of the numbers around the game, some of the key tactical talking points to try and continue to look at the development of this side under Clement. We've got loads of coverage on there today in relation to big talking points. That could be the inside story of Dujon Sterling's journey to Rangers and how he's eventually materialised as this midfield player, that exclusive interview with James Tavernier, lots of other content on there. Fantastic piece from Martin Ramsey yesterday on the nature of the title race. But the big talking point, the big news, if of course you have not been watching the title race today, which I'm sure you have been, is that Rangers go top of the table for the first time this season, the first time since the 21-22 season, with a 3-0 win away at St Johnstone with 12 games to go. Can they go and win the league? It looked completely unlikely. It looked like an absolute improbability a few months ago, but we'll see how they go now. Loads of coverage to come this week. Stick with us. We'll join you at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Until then, thanks for joining me. Remember to subscribe to the Rangers Review, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.